lives one day at a time. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. They're here to get your day going fine. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. And here's your host, Miss Kim Robinson.
Hey, Black Lives Matter. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Relentless Pursuit. This Minister Sedric. I hope you had a wonderful week, because we know that we have had blessed week. Y'all know I'm just going to jump right into it today, but you know that we still have some things going on. We had the beautiful homecoming for Mr. George Floyd on Thursday. I was able to sit back and watch it. I kind of made it an event, and I watched the entire ceremony, and it was touching and it was moving. But, you know, there's something I like that happened. You know, we took that moment of silence, and I held that 8 minutes, almost 9 minutes, not just for George Floyd, but for every man who has been wrongfully killed by police, especially our black men and women who have been wrongfully killed or murdered or even in some terms assassinated by police and different individuals in this country. So it held a special meaning to me, and it really touched my heart. And as I read through, as I read a little bit today, I was thinking of why is our nation so divided? And the question was, and this is what I'd like to do. Right now we live in a world divided, but I like to say that I want to introduce the world to who I am as a black man in America, you know, and that's kind of where I've been. And I keep thinking about the Word of God, and I trust the Word of God, and I know the Word of God is never false. But man, our world is so divided, and we know that a house divided against itself cannot stand. You know, I was reading over in Genesis. I would encourage y'all to read Genesis chapter 10, chapter 11, and where you will find where they talk about the great grandson of Noah, and I believe his name was Peleg, and the name in itself means divided. And so when you read into the scriptures, by the time you get to Genesis chapter 11, you get to the story of the Tower of Babel. And we find that everything becomes divided. And then so it says that when you read previously in chapter 10, you want to ask the question. It says, you know, I asked myself, what does it mean? You know, why was his name divided? Why? And when you get to chapter 11, you get to find out why. And, you know, you find that the people in the city, they wanted to build a city with a tower that reached all the way up in the sky. Check this out. In order to make a name for themselves, right? Right? Nothing like what Noah wanted to do, right? Because we know that Noah walked faithfully with God. And so when they wanted to build this tower, God intervened. And then what he did was he confused the people by giving them different languages and scattering them throughout the world, right? So our world right now is divided. And I encourage us all, you know, wherever we look in the world that we live in today, we still live with the results of the divisions that were sown way back then. You know what I'm saying? The things that we're experiencing in our country right now, you know, the nationalism, tribalism, and racism is the biggest thing right now. All the different types of prejudices, and then we're talking about warfare, right? And so right now is the time. We're starting to make some headway. But you know what's happening. We're making headway, and all of a sudden, once again, division is going to show up. But there is still hope. There's still some hope here, right? And I'm gonna get right in with my guest here in just a second. But I want to say that God sent us a hope. Why? Because He sent us Jesus, the birth of an angel, right? Jesus is here, and so He sent us Jesus. He sent us a Savior, right? It says that a Savior has been born to you, right? When you read that in Luke, and so we have hope. God has already fixed the problem for us. We have to stay the course. And so though everything seems divided, I just want everybody to know that there is hope. But while we are facing the division right now, we need to bring clarity to these situations. We can no longer sit on these things. We can no longer allow these things to be pushed out to the forefront as if it's business as usual. See, it's time to change the usual business. And so I just want to say, and I want to put this out here for anybody who hears this, that they think that these movements and the whole Black Lives Matter thing is all about just black people. It's for justice, not just for us, not just for you, not just for them, for all of us. It needs to be just. We need to all be treated and judged the same way so that we can love one another, so that we won't have the hate and the strife and the envy in our hearts for each other. This is about love. And since we are all God's people, I don't care how you try to say you're not. I don't care how you try to say you're not my brother. You still my brother, right? Or my sister, right? And so let's not lose hope. Let's not lose faith. We know that the world is divided. We know that there are certain people in place who are trying to continue to keep it divided because they're selfish and they are greedy and they have their own agendas. But just like when you go back and you read in chapter 11 of Genesis with the Tower of Babel, you know, God has a way of separating us. He has a way of doing that. But I think that right now is that call for unity is here, and we need to unite, and we need to get some things done. So that's it. That's my prayer for everybody today. I'm sorry. Hope y'all understood what I was trying to say. But let's get back together. So with that being said, I want to welcome y'all back again. It's Minister Sedric. I am blessed and highly favored today. I never used that phrase, but I'm blessed and highly favored. God has allowed me to be up. He's allowed me to walk on this leg of mine, this foot of mine. My neck is what it is, but I'm feeling much better, and so God has blessed me. So with that, hey, brothers, how y'all doing today? Brother Terry, you out there?
Yes, I am. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing great. Enjoying this
glad to have
summer day.
Glad to have you. All right. Brother Jason, you hanging around out there?
Yes, sir. How you doing today, my man?
Oh, man, you can see I'm about to get excited here. But, man, today is a good day. But I tell you, today is one of those days where I'm just like, I'm feeling it. I'm loving what's going on. I know it's a lot of tragedy didn't happen, but I want to just jump right in. A lot of tragic things have happened, and a lot of blood's been shed, a lot of lives lost, a lot of buildings have been burned, a lot of, a whole bunch of vandalism. But I'm so proud of the people who are out here, even in a pandemic, who are protesting. I'm so proud of the people who are being heard, and I'm proud in so many ways. I'm proud of looking out at these crowds, and I'm seeing these crowds that are very diverse. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take all of us. See, as a black man, I can't just keep telling you my story. Like I told y'all last week, I'm angry about telling you my story. I need to hear your story because we've been singing our story for over 400 years. Y'all ain't. Oh, let me calm down. But I'm tired of that, and so but I'm excited about what's going on. So on the show today, I wanted to ask you guys a question. I wanted to start it off with a question, and I want to start it off with a question because here we are, all the way up on June 5th, 2020. June the 5th, 2020, we still struggling with issues from 1800. And so my question is this. And because I was talking to one of my friends, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and bring it up. I was talking to one of my friends who's a pastor, and he happens to be white, and he's very particular about what he'll talk about, so he tries to remain neutral. And so, what I said to him, I asked him a question about what was going on, what Donald Trump had done about the Bible and going in front of the church. And his response was, well, I don't want to talk about him because, people like him, people hate him. I just don't want to judge somebody I've never met and I don't know. And I said, that's fine, but I didn't ask you to judge him. I asked you about the action that he took with the Bible since you are a God-fearing pastor. And he became very quiet. And he said that, no, I don't have nothing to say about it. And it bothered me. It bothered me because he's a guy who knows me. He's known me now for about 10 years. But it bothered me because he got really quiet. And so I said to him, that's why we can't tackle the problem of race in America. Because when it comes down to it, the people who need to speak up refuse to speak up because they don't want to appear biased to somebody who doesn't look like them. They want to be quiet. They want, it doesn't really bother me. I mean, I hate racism, but it's not affecting me in my household. So I'm going to keep the peace in my household. So I said to him, well, would it be better if I introduced myself to you, if I told you who I was? So that leads up to my question for the two of you today. Terry, Jason, I would like for you, if you could, can you introduce yourself to America? Just think you're a black man out here, and you're in white America. How would you introduce yourself? What would you want them to know? Tell us a little something about yourself, your story. Just give me 2, 3, 5 minutes, whatever you want to give. Today.
Okay, well, I guess I'll get started. Hi, my name is Jason. I'm a 43-year-old black male. Grew up in, I would say, lower middle class upbringing. Mom was a nursing professional my whole life. Throughout my course of my life, she took me from a really bad neighborhood to your typical suburban type neighborhood. So I've grown up with just, my mom always taught me, she basically was honest with me. Hey, you're black. You're not going to be treated fairly. So don't let that be an excuse. And she, with that teaching, she allowed me to not look at the color of my skin as a detriment, but almost like, okay, it's the reality of the situation, you have to overcome it. Now, I would tell you, with that mindset, I would say I perverted it to mean like, well, why do I have to work harder because I'm black? And for the longest time, there was animosity against myself and my own culture and my own race because of it. And I will tell you that although for the longest I would never identify myself with the culture and do everything to separate myself from the culture, it didn't matter because there were times that I got reminded very quickly and clearly that you're not. So I don't know. As we we were talking about this earlier when this situation came out and Brother Floyd lost his life over it. The feeling I had was one of just despair, sadness, loss of hope. I was angry, but then I was angry, but then I was hurt, and I was like, it was very painful, and a lot of raw emotion. And I've been reflecting really about where are we and what we're doing, and it's just, I don't know. It's interesting that the pain that I feel growing up, being what I want to just say, I'm a human being that has a darker skin tone, but that's not reality. I'm a black man, and that is really my reality. And we live in a culture and in a system that does not allow me to forget that. So as we're starting to have more conversation about systemic racism and everybody wants to say it's hard to quantify. Everybody wants to throw out statistics and say, well, it's hard to quantify. Everybody wants to say, well, yes, there's a racist people, but that's just an individual person. I'm starting to see why does so many brothers, why do so many black men like me have the same experience, right? And my men's group met, and this is a men's group that had people from early mid-20s all the way to 70 who grew up in socioeconomic situations from dirt poor, living in a hood, to suburban America with professional parents. college-educated professional parent. But as we talked about this experience, we all had the same one. So part of me, I'm a math guy, I'm a numbers guy. So when I hear statistics, I'm like, all right, well, that's fine. But there's a saying, numbers don't lie, but they don't tell the whole story. And I think there's a story to be told about my experience and how I have all this hurt and despair. Why when I get pulled over by a cop, there's a bit of nervousness in my stomach. Man, like I said last week, the worst I've ever done was probably do some speeding and maybe cheating on my taxes. There is no way I should be afraid of these people who are supposed to protect me, a law-abiding citizen, but I do. And for too many times, that's the experience of so many black men. So to tell me there's not something in the system, I will tell you that you're just not looking. You may be looking at the world from your perspective and from your experience, but too many of men like me have the same experience. Where when those blue lights flash behind you, your stomach drops a little bit. And I'm like, something in what we grew up in. If you don't, I'm not ready to call it systemic racism, but there is a systemic thing in this that wounds me as a black man. And I want to go beyond that as just a black person, because you see it in our women too, that there's a wound in us that you cannot just write off to, well, that's just a bad person. You had a bad experience with a bad person.
Right.
So
now let's not go too deep into that just yet, because we want to talk about that a little bit. But Terry, go ahead and introduce yourself for us real quick.
Okay. My name is Terry R. Jones. I was born in Pee Wee Valley, Kentucky.
Pee Wee Valley.
There was only two places that black children could be born, and one was downtown at General Hospital, which is now U of L, part of U of L Hospital, and Pee Wee Valley Hospital, which was a very small hospital out in the county. So I was born pretty much out in the county in the suburbs and raised out in the suburbs. My parents were working lower middle class family. Dad was made to drop out of high school his senior year because his dad didn't believe that black men needed to be educated. My mom, she went through high school, and she wound up, they both wound up working real hard, even regardless of not having completed high school. They eventually completed high school, but they worked really hard to get where they were. There was four of us. And if you want to include my foster brother, they were foster parents as well. It was really five of us. They worked really hard to provide us with opportunities that they did not have. Even though that they did not graduate from college, they were like, something, you guys are all going to college. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And they put us in a situation for us to succeed. We learned the game. I learned the game at a very young age. Go along, get along, so that you can get what you need, type of thing. Yeah. So we were taught that, because even though I saw my father, he would greet people, and he would say, call him yes sir, no sir, hello Mr. Holloway. He was like, something, that's just go along to get along, and we learned that. He's like, look, take advantage of these opportunities, go along to get along. And so that's pretty much what we did. But I was like, I shouldn't have to call this man is the same age as you, Dad. Why do you have to call him Mr. Holloway and he calls you by your first name? That really didn't settle well with me. And so I'm going to say I lived a sheltered life for the most part. Yeah, I grew up in an area called Berrytown, which is where it's the oldest black settlement in East Jefferson County. And so we were like we were like between money, like Anchorage to the right, and to the left you have Middletown, and so we're nestled in here. And so all the great athletes came from Berrytown or Griffeytown, and we were, and so we were respected in that sense because we were great athletes, but we were never we weren't ever necessarily pushed in high school to go and to do better. I remember when I was applying for going to school, I was accepted into West Point. I was accepted into Indiana University. I got all these other scholarships to play baseball and football. But my high school counselor, she said, something, why don't you just go to U of L or go to a small Kentucky State. Go to a small school. You don't need to go to. So she never pushed with my parents, but they were always saying, "Look, you go where you're able. You got in there, you can go." So basically, I chose to go to a place, that was a predominantly white institution, which is University of Dayton. But I was always put in positions to succeed by my parents and to take advantage of those opportunities. Now, I didn't get my first whiff of true. I witnessed it on behalf of my fathers, my parents, like saying with with the whole yes sir, no sir type of thing, and then the white people calling them by their first name. I got that, but as far as personally witnessing my very first piece of racism, it took place, after I graduated from college and moved back here, and I left a friend's house, he and his wife's house, and I got stopped by the police in an area that's a mixed area, but I was stopped because I looked like somebody they were looking for. And like Jason said, that when you get stopped by the police like that, because see, when I grew up, I had friends whose fathers were police, so I saw police as something, they're cool. They were cool with me, because I knew their sons, or their sons came over to my house, and I went over to their house. But when that happened, when I got stopped, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead and finish your story.
But when I got stopped by the police, like Jason said, my stomach just dropped. And next time I thought it was going to be just one police, but it came out to be like 3 or 4 police cars surrounded me, had my hands on the steering wheel, the whole nine, and it was just, I'm like, it was a quick reminder: you're a black man. You're a black man.
I'm glad you brought that point up. Because that was going to be my next question. My next question is hearing the two of your backgrounds, hearing where you're from, hearing how you were raised, hearing how you had good parents. Jason, you're from a single home, but your mom was a nurse, right, Jason?
Yeah, she graduated from college with a nursing degree. Yep.
So your mom went to college. She had a nursing degree. Terry, your parents had respectable jobs that they may not have gotten to college right after high school, but they eventually continued to educate themselves. And so what was the first time that you really understood that you weren't like everybody else? Was it when you first started school? Did you experience things growing up? Because the reason is I'm tired of people making excuses, and all of us have had a first time. So what was your first time when you realized, hey, I'm black and I'm different? What was the first experience you had, or an experience? It doesn't have to be the first one. Terry, you can continue with your last experience.
That experience was one, but then one thing I remember very vividly was when I was in high school, and all my friends was summer vacation of my senior year. My parents, we never took vacation. Vacation was like you going to Beach Bend or you go to Kings Island, and that's it. But they were going, they were preparing, and they were like, and so they were going to Florida. Now I'm like, I've never been to Florida. I wanted to go to Florida, and and they didn't ask me. They didn't ask me to go, and I was like, okay. These are my white friends I play baseball. I'm sorry, is this better? How is this?
All right.
Okay. Good. But they never asked me. These are my white friends that I grew up with, playing baseball with, playing football with. They never asked me. And they went and had a good time, came back, and all this stuff. And I was like, something? You're black. You're black. They didn't ask you to go. It was all these white guys, and none of them asked you to go. So that was a quick reminder for me.
They just didn't ask you. So
they had already worked it out.
Black guy in the group. They asked each other, or what? Is this high school?
They asked each other,
college?
they didn't ask me. It was high school.
Is this high school, college?
Yeah.
Okay.
High
so
school.
they're around each other. They asked each other, but you never got invited to the big show.
Right. Never got invited.
Jason, did you ever have any experiences like this?
It's interesting. I can't recall my first true experience, but at least not the first one. But I don't know.
Any experience? Have you had any experience?
Oh yeah, I mean we all have, and I'll tell you today, I notice it, and it's funny because I've always noticed it, and I've just blown it off. Like I go into the library, and I walk in the door of the library, and there's a bit of a hallway between the entry door and the area where you go get the books at. And inevitably, I'm walking down the highway on one side. I see people coming out of the library to exit the library, the same door I walked in of, and all of a sudden they always shift to the other side. And it's not to get closer to the door; it's to get further away. And it's little stuff like that, sitting at a restaurant, and I get up to go get a glass of water, and the lady sitting next to me feels the need to clutch her purse a little bit harder, because I'm now moving in her general direction to get up, and so little stuff like that I noticed. I tell you, I noticed. I don't know. I can tell you as a young kid, I can't tell you the first time. Oh.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. The reason I ask these questions, how now, knowing how you felt then, how does that make you feel about what's going on right now? Because we're going through a tough time, and this one friend that I talked to, again, he's a pastor. He does not understand the plight because I hear people saying, well, all y'all got to do is get jobs, and all y'all got to do is go get education. All y'all got to do is so and so and so and so. But I'm gonna echo something that Al Sharpton said. He said that we could run our own corporations, we could handle our own business if y'all get y'all foot off my neck. So how have you recognized that this systemic? Somebody mentioned systemic racism. How has it affected you in your adulthood? How have you seen this work against you or family members or friends in our community? How have you seen this work against us? Because some people don't believe this exists. Some people keep telling me, no, y'all got to do this and y'all got to do that. And it's always y'all, right? As if I can zip off this black skin and become somebody else. But it's always y'all and y'all community. So what would you say to us? How can we, and how have you been affected by this?
Okay, I want to jump in on this because this really hits home with me. My parents, they provided us with the opportunities to succeed. Not everybody is offered or is put in those type of positions to succeed. Both my parents, they were like, you guys are going to succeed. They had a chance to live in the West End or live in other parts of the city, but they were like, something, no, we're taking y'all out of all that. We're not letting y'all to go into that. We're going to put you in a position to succeed. Now, here's where the problem comes, okay? We take advantage of these opportunities. I go get my bachelor's degree. I get my master's degree. When I very first started this company over 21 years ago, to be the executive director, all you had to do was have your bachelor's degree. Then all of a sudden, 5 years later, they changed it. They were like, something, we're making it necessary for everybody to get their master's degree to hold this position. So now what did I have to do? I had to go and get my master's degree because if I didn't, then I wasn't going to be able to be the president of my company. And so then, so they changed, they moved the goalpost, if you will. That's how I've seen it affect me. It's affected me that way. They constantly are moving the goalposts. Once we get to one spot, they want to move. Okay, well now it requires this. Then it requires, then there'll be something else, that it requires. But it will never be out of reach for them. It will always be out of reach for us. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me. At least they try to put it out of reach.
They try to put it out.
And what my experience has been is that you said they moved the goalposts. You see, this is what I think. I think they moved the goalposts for us, but they don't move it for them. Serving in my career in the military, I saw that there were guys who came in after me at some point, and they wanted to, check this out, they wanted to promote them over me or put them in a position beyond my position. But see, the smartest thing that I learned to do being a soldier, the smartest thing I learned to do, but check this, I learned to always stay a step ahead. That meant that I knew my boss's job and I knew his boss's job. But see, they wouldn't teach you. I had to go get with somebody who was willing to teach me, who wasn't even in my unit, so that I could learn those two positions. So when it came up and something came up, my leadership skills had to be on point. My education about my job had to be on point. And it goes back to what you were saying, Jason. It's almost as if we're never going to be good enough. It's kind of like the quarterbacks in the NFL. Black man can't lead an NFL team to a championship. He can't think fast enough. He don't have the right mechanics. He's slow. He's this. He's that. And not until our quarterbacks became bigger, stronger, faster, and actually did the job were they willing to accept it. So we are beating this into society that we are a people who can do anything that we put our minds to, but why won't society understand that? You see, I struggle with this. I have a hard time with this. You know, and it bothers me to no end that we can sit up here. I'll give you for instance, and I want y'all to talk next. I really want to talk about the whole police interactions because this is really important to me. But my thing is, I believe in education. I believe in being the best that I can be. But I'm one individual. How do I continue to show people how great I am or how good I can be, or how can I bring up the next generation? Because right now what we're running into is this systemic racism that we're running into. It has to filter through the police departments. Law enforcement right now, it seems like they have it in for young black people. I'm not even going to say young, black people, period. If we're not cowering down to them, cowering down, and playing tops or playing their game and allowing them to win. See, that's what they really want to do. They want to invite you to play the game, but what you really got to do is you got to let them win. And so I'm sick and tired of that right now. How does that make you feel? Well, what you see going on in the news, we got protesters out here. Let's exclude the vandals. We're not even going to talk about the looters. Let's talk about the protests. And we got people out here protesting, and they are earnestly and honestly and legitimately protesting. Why are they being attacked by law enforcement? Can somebody help me with that? Why are they being attacked?
I think the attacks are a result of that system that we talk about. Of that, you know, just like I grew up, you know, with the perception of being a black man. As a black man, I believe that people who aren't grow up with a perception of what black men are and what not black men, but just black people in general are. And it's one of those things that it's ingrained, it's instilled in them, and it's been taught to them, like I said, over the course of years and time, and they act and they operate on it, you know, whether it's indirectly or directly, but there is something that has shaped the perception of both sides of how we see black people in America, you know, and so when you talk about interactions, you know, one of the things that I always marvel at is that when you get people from another country, I'm talking about most of their young adult life has been spent in another country. They didn't grow up in the American system. But one of the first things they pick up very quickly is dislike of the black man, right? And
why do you think that's
so?
Why do you think that's so? But hold on, why do you think that's so?
Because the system tells them to. Because just like when you walk into somebody's house, you look at the owner of the house, and they kind of decide what's right and what's wrong, what's acceptable and what's not. So when you have people from other countries come over, and the predominantly white population that's in charge acts and behaves in a certain way toward black people, they see like, oh, well, I want to fit in. I guess that's how I'm supposed to act and behave. You know, you got to think about some of these people are running away from, you know, their racism in their own hometown, in their own countries. They know firsthand how it feels to be mistreated because you were born into a certain family, you were born into a certain class, not by the character of your heart, but by something that you had no control over. But yet and still, when they come over to America, I truly believe that there's something in the system that they see that says, okay, I'm not supposed to trust black people. I'm supposed to see black people, interact with black people this way. This is my perception of black people in this country. So I'm just going to accept it because this is what the system tells me to. So
in other words, you're saying that the media has something to do with this, right? The way we're putting out how black people are and how we're treated. So the media has something to do with this. The way we're depicted in the movies and things like that, right?
I think that has a large part to do about it, but I think it even goes beyond media. It's the people who are, like I said. I mean, my biggest thing is like when you have people like foreign people who've never grown up in America but take the same views and treatment of black people toward them. It's their interactions with other folks. It's not just media, but it's what they're being taught, right?
Who's doing the teaching? But who's doing the teaching?
That's the strange part. It's whoever takes those people in is like, well, you know what? Stay out of that neighborhood, right? Typically it is the predominant culture. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's another minority culture. But you see that the ones who grow up with the blacks, with black people in their own cities and in their own culture, quickly learn that, hey, this ain't very, if I stand with you, I'm standing against the majority, and it becomes a lot harder for them to do that.
But I think you said something that's really key that I think we need to touch on, though, Jason and Cedric. I'm thinking about how we grow up. Like I told you how my parents told us, go along and get along. That was really telling us you learn how they operate. Okay, you learn how and watch them. So we were put in their schools, taught their history, done all went over to their homes, those types of things, and so but it was never reciprocated. So basically what's happening, they're going by what they see in media, social media, on television, what people down the street might say, but until they get to know us, until they purposely say, something, I'm going to get to know this person and realize, something, the West End is not a bad place, or the or Berrytown is not a bad place, until people are able to come out of that and really make it and do it on purpose, you know what I'm saying, and do it on purpose, then we're going to continue to have this issue.
But see, that still doesn't, for me, again, introducing myself as a black man in America and telling you my story, that still doesn't, that don't do jack for me. I mean, it really doesn't. I'm just of the mindset that our nation is broken. It needs a healing. And how do we get to it? And I'm saying my big thing is, and my big push, and my friends, they always tell me I'm too radical in my thinking, but I'm very simple, is I believe that a man is a man. When you respect me, I'll respect you. Let's start off by showing each other a common courtesy. Let's acknowledge that we are both human beings. And when I look at the media, one of the reasons I don't look at certain shows like Power and all these shows is because I see a depiction of black people that I don't like. No matter how successful a woman is in these shows, she still got that let me say it for the lack of a better way, she still got that attitude that has been stereotyped amongst black women for since the 70s and 80s, that they got this strong, mouthy, basically a Jezebel, you know what I mean? And they always had that part, and they have glorified it to a point where they say they just stick the label on them, And so I've always had a problem. So I'm just trying to get to a point where I'm saying to white America, here we are. Here I am. I'm a man. I don't like certain things. I do like certain things. But we're not monolithic. I'm different. Most guys you meet, when you compare me to them, even with the two of you as friends, I'm different in my way. My approach is different. But here in America, they want to treat all of us as if we're criminals. Now, there are some bad apples out there. We know that. But there's some bad acting white people out there. I was talking about the interaction with police, and I think I've told y'all before that I've seen where there was a white man who was stealing out of Walmart, who tried to take the police officer's gun. He was fighting the cops. He tried to carjack a couple of cars. He tried to carjack. Then check this out. They chased him back into Walmart. They beat him up. But guess what? He got handcuffed and arrested. But a black man cursed at a cop until the cop were to go, and he wound up in the morgue. They have to call a meat wagon to pick his meat up off the street. I'm saying that stuff like that, and the reason why I'm proud of the protest is because people are finally getting tired of this. And I want people to understand we are black men, but we just live common, everyday lives. We ain't out here shooting, looting. We ain't doing none of that stuff. We are who we are. And that level of respect, I don't demand much from people. You don't have to talk to me. You don't have to look me in the eye when you speak to me. You don't have to do any of that. But I'm going to need you to respect me. But check this. I'm going to need you to respect me in a way that I know that you respected me. You see, you can't put your stuff on me. You got to know me so that you can respect me the way that I can understand you. The same way I talk to you, the way that you can understand what I'm saying. And I'm saying in America right now, we just don't have a lot of that going on. We have people making excuses for other people, and it bothers me. So with that on my mind, I'm gonna need y'all to talk me down, because I, for one, sometimes I believe in God. I love God and I love the Word of God. But man, I have a hard time letting this stuff go all the time. And again, I'm the brother who gets a pass. I'm telling y'all now, I get a pass. It seems like God just takes care of Sedric. They say that God takes care of babies and fools, but he be taking care of me. So how do you guys find yourselves navigating these challenges? How do you do it? Terry,
so I
go ahead, Justin.
Okay, Jason, how do you do it?
So I think in this time, especially as a Christian, I tell everybody the same thing. I think, the path to healing is understanding and conversation. And it's not conversation about numbers. It's not conversation about facts, but it's really talking about an experience, right? We all had that experience for the first time as black men, the first time we realized, hey, I am different. And then the first time we realized, hey, my difference, I'm gonna be treated lesser than because of that difference, right? And to be able to share that hurt and that pain with another person, and that person not get defensive or offended, but just know, like, we're human beings and we hurt, and recognize that there is hurt and there is pain, and no, it's not just a bad person that's causing this hurt and pain, because that's one of the things everybody always wants to say. Well, there's no systemic racism. There's racist people, but there's nothing in the system. There's too many black people have too many similar stories to tell me that every individual they run into, there's that many bad individuals and that many racist individuals in this country, right? It's hard to believe that, but we have to have that real conversation. And for me, I always when I look at the situation, there may be a systemic issue. However, the system is made up of the people and impacts the people. And as a Christ follower, my first thing is, how do I impact the people? How do I talk to that young brother who experienced that pain and that anger and that frustration, where he feels like, man, I heard these stories from my granddad and my great uncle and my dad, and now here I am still living it. Why can't I?
So Jason, what would you tell him? What would you tell the young man?
I would have to tell that young man, like, the hurt and pain you feel is real. And we live in a system that's gonna keep just hurting you and causing that pain on you. And what we have to do is find something, like we said last week. How do I heal from trauma when I'm in the midst of it? And I think the only way to do that is to turn to somebody who has not just power over my healing and my recovery, but power over the system itself. And to find God in this and say, okay, all right, God, what's my next step? And then, like I said, have real conversations about the hurt and pain. And I would be honest, I think the hurt and pain and the trauma being caused is on both sides, because you have people on the other side who grow up with these same images that shaped their mind, and now they have these unfounded fears and nervousness, and it ain't healthy for them either. But we need to have conversations about that and just connect as people first, and then once we connect as people, then we talk about like how do now that we are people first, how do we create a system that recognizes just the fact that we're people?
I honestly, that goes with that scripture, Jason. What you're saying is how can two walk together except they agree? It's about, we've got to come into an agreement. That what's happening now in the world is evil, and it's wrong. It's systemic racism, and that only comes by, like you're saying, having that discussion, having those tough talks, having those, and people and everybody standing there and just saying, something, I hear you. Not only do I hear you, I see it. Let's work together to break this change, And so it's that acceptance and really honoring the fact that, something, you're right. Jason, you're right. And see, but for whatever reason, people feel by acknowledging your rightness that some people feel that just discounts everything and just totally says, something, why all white people are evil. No, not all white people are evil.
That's right.
But but there are systems in place that really work against people of color, period. We just need for you to, one, acknowledge it, but then also work with us to help change it. To where it's equal playing field.
Yeah. See. So you have a vision of this equal playing field. So we all agree that this can happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a question. I have a question. We got about 10 minutes left. Now, y'all know me. I'm always spouting about voting. If you don't know me, now you know me. If you don't know, now you know. I want y'all to give me a little advice. Let's give some people some advice. When it comes to voting, you're talking to your sons and your daughters. What do you tell them about voting and about the candidates?
It's your voice. It's your vote. It's your voice. Voting is your voice. So, and you need to learn the different candidates, their platforms, what they're about, everything. And you need to understand that you vote for your best, what's in the best interest, your best interest. Don't vote for somebody that's not in your interest, not for your best interest. But that comes with educating yourself, sitting down, reading some things. Don't go with the crowd just because everybody says, "Oh, go vote for Bernie." No, I'm not going to vote. Bernie got wonderful ideas, but let's be realistic in the system where we are right now. Half of Bernie stuff, a majority of Bernie stuff is going to get shot down. We need somebody that understands that. So it's really understanding the candidates, their platforms, what they believe, what they're going for. Educate yourself. Educate before you vote.
Absolutely, Jason. What advice you got on that?
Well, just the same. Like I said, if you want to vote, you got to be an informed voter. Don't vote because that's what your mom and dad voted for, but really get to learn the people. And the beautiful thing is, in the environment that we have today, where information is out there and information is prevalent, right? You can find out all you need to know, right? You don't have to just rely on what's being fed to you through TV and radio, and you can do their research. So, it is an opportunity you have, and just like with any opportunity, you want to take advantage of it. If you choose to take advantage of it, then be informed with it, right? Just don't go out and don't make a choice because it just seems like the cool thing to do or the hip thing to do, or you heard them say one or two things. Right, because if you listen to them long enough, you're gonna hear them say one or two things that go against that, and you've got to find out, okay, what do you really stand for?
Okay. Well, that's actually from both of you. I appreciate it because that's really good advice for everybody. I know we're gonna close out in about 5, maybe 6 minutes here, but I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about unity. And what's the one thing, if you could have one thing happen right now, what would be the one thing? Because I'm sitting here and I just saw that in Minnesota they passed some police reforms already. Why do you think it's taken this entire uprising or all of the protests? You know, we here in America, in Minnesota and in Houston and here in America, we got fed up finally and we started protesting. And these protests have touched every continent in the world. And that's amazing to me. And the most amazing is South Africa, right? Cape Cod, they are protesting about equal rights, right? These people haven't had their freedom. Apartheid South Africa just ended back in the 90s. What's the one thing that if you could, you would change right now?
That it would take the squeakiest wheel that gets the most oil. That's what I would change. It shouldn't have to be that way.
Okay.
You know the saying, the squeakiest wheel gets the most oil? The one that makes the most noise gets the most oil. That's what it took, this uprising. It should not have. Colin Kaepernick was kneeling, and they tried to make it something else. And so they took his narrative and made it something else and said, you know something? And so, but this could have been solved if back then, way back then. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? If people would be willing, versus us having to go start protesting, stuff gets burned down, we have to paint city blocks, Black Lives Matter. I mean, this could have been dealt with years ago.
Could have been dealt.
But the squeakiest wheel gets them, and it shouldn't have to be that way. It should be people, like you said, I'm a human being. I'm a human being. I'm going to treat you with respect. You treat me with respect. The law should reflect that. You know what I'm saying? It should be us. And if there's a law that doesn't reflect that, we should be able to sit down, reason together, and say, you know something, this is not good for the human race, not black or white or Hispanic or whatever. This is not good for the human race.
Right.
So magic wand, that's what I'd wish. That's what I wish for.
Okay. What about you, Jason?
For me, I would wish for just healing and restoration, and you know, and find a way to deal with this pain that's being caused, and then as people figure out how do we change the system so there's no longer victimizing, you know, members of our family. So mine would be less about changing the circumstance, but really affecting the people, and then watch the people change the circumstance. Because I'll tell you this, even with all these reforms and these laws being put in place, and we're changing how we act, until you touch a man's heart, you really ain't made an effective change. So
all right.
I would say something that we can touch each other at the place where we're all the same, and it's outside our hearts.
Awesome. I tell you, right now, the way everything's going, you know, if I could just change one thing, and it would be just that more of us would be out here protesting, that there would be no pandemic, so we could keep on going. Because I can see the black leadership in this country standing up. I can see a new group of black leaders coming up right now, ready to take the reins, ready to move forward. I can see some young white kids, a more diverse government is coming. That's the one thing that I'm wishing for, a more diverse and more inclusive government, so that our society becomes more diverse and more inclusive, so that you don't have to be a member of the good old boys club to get to where you need to get to. I'm like Dr. King right now, you know, that all of us will be judged by the content by our content and not the color of our skin. See, I see that coming. Our character, the content of our character is what's important. It's what you doing when ain't nobody looking. I would call out Donald Trump, but we all know what he's doing when ain't nobody looking. Heck, we know what he's doing when people looking. It ain't right. And I'm saying that's what I'm hoping for. That's my wish, because that's what we need. And that's what we need in this country. That's what we need, dialogue. But you know what? We can't keep just opening up dialogue, because talk is cheap. I want to see people walking the walk. You hear what I'm saying? You talk the talk. Let's go. Let's do this. And so that's my wish, and that's my prayer every day for all of us, for everybody, because God has given each of us a vision. He has given each of us a destiny, and it's time for us to grab hold of the reins and let's go forward in the destiny that God has called for us. I'm not asking what you want for yourself. I'm saying what God has called you to do, that's what we need to do. And I'm telling you, today, I believe it with every fiber of my being. And with that being said, y'all know how it is. We're going to go ahead and sign off here today. Sister Kim, go ahead and cue it up. But I want to say, it's been Minister Sedric with my two partners, Terry and Jason. I love y'all. Thank y'all for a wonderful conversation. We're going to get back. But until then, find something you love. I want you to embrace it, and I need you to chase it. That is your relentless pursuit. This is Minister Sedric, and I just want to say have a good night, and God bless you all.
Not about religion, more of a culture thing. When you an eagle, can't compromise with the vulture brain. Stay focused, feeling hopeless, living in a broken dream. Stay woke, don't stay broke. Hit it with the shoulder lean, haters try to block a shot. Gotta hit it with a double clutch. Play the cards I was dealt. My opponents didn't shuffle up. Same rope that they try to hang you with. You with the double dutch, throwing stones to hide their hand. And them always sucking up too much. Hating me blood. People don't love enough. In the club, but they cut it tough. Mind on some other stuff. Something poisonous. Remind me of a buttercup. Knuckle up. Spiritual warfare inside every one of us.
No baggage, no. Get on board. People get ready. There's a train that's coming. Emancipation Proclamation can do this for us. No Tennysonian or Johnsonian civil rights bill can do this for us. If the Negro is to be free, he must move down into the inner resources of his own soul and sign with the pen and ink of self-asserted manhood his own emancipation proclamation.
I'm only the king, dollars that I will never make. You an eagle, I told you that. Watch how fly the top can get. No doubt about it, I don't doubt about it. Surrounded by a lot of stress. Spirituality is plain high and go see. You still haven't found it yet. You can find it. I gotta remind you, look inside yourself. Are people dying? Gonna lack of knowledge, so you gotta apply yourself. The media, attractive violence, that's why you gotta doubt yourself. Resurrect, look for the facts, and don't lie to self. Does cry, but they crying for help. You're looking for better ways, better pray, you meditate, manifesting the better days. Some people trying to hold you down, you really the heavyweight. If they gonna hate, then let them hate. I'm spiritually levitate.
No baggage, no.